Yo, what's up? Welcome back to Reviews with Jake, where I just got done watching The Devil All the Time on Netflix. The Devil All the Time is a story based on a novel in which we have a young protagonist who had one hell of a rough backstory, who tries to navigate his way through a bunch of shady characters and scenarios to protect those that he loves. Dude. This cast. There are very few movies that have a stacked ass cast like this that don't have a title that's associated with like Marvel or something. Even if you disregard the all-star cast here, this movie just looks intriguing in premise. I mean, I watched the trailer and I'm like, well, don't get me wrong, I had no idea what it's about, but I was very interested. But the most exciting aspect of all this is the combination of these two things, the cast and the film itself. Now obviously I don't know all the ins and outs of Hollywood and the business side of casting, but I'd imagine that putting an ensemble like this together at face value is not cheap. So when I see a movie like this that has all of this talent under one roof, I assume it wasn't due to finances. I assume they all looked at this script and saw something they wanted to be a part of. Again, purely conjecture on my part, but I'd imagine that all the all-star actors and actresses in this movie aren't here to chase a paycheck, because I just can't imagine that there's enough money to go around to pay all these heavy hitters. No, I assume that they're all here because they're all buying in. They want to create something special together. The analogy I just can't seem to get out of my head are the Kansas City Chiefs right now. Sorry for all you non-sports fans out there, but I see that team of these all-star players that could make bank going somewhere else, but they all decide to take less money to stick together because they want to be a part of something legendary. They don't want to break up the band due to money, but they know that resources are finite, but you need talent to create something special, so something's gotta give. It is also worth noting that I'm still committing to this flattering analogy, even though if my math is correct, this is going to drop the same day that my Ravens are playing this legendary team on Monday Night Football. I might regret tomorrow giving so many props today, but I digress. That's enough sports talk for today. All I'm saying is, in this salary cap era of Hollywood, you just don't see casts and ensembles like this unless you're about to watch something special. And the pros start right there. The acting in this film is amazing. From top to bottom, from the entire ensemble, this is the best acted movie I have seen all year. Everybody killed it. Absolutely everyone. And this movie gave so many opportunities and windows for each of their all-star cast to just crush it. Dramatic and theatrical sermons in mass, immensely tragic scenarios, fuming anger. This movie has a bit of everything. Basic acting could have sufficed, but it's this titan of a cast that brought this movie to the next level. This film is a glorious showcase of acting talent. A copy of this film needs to be in every acting classroom across the world because it is just so many points that can be referenced for different reasons, different emotions. It's outstanding. There are so many directorial decisions made throughout this movie, big and small, that really put the ball into the actors and actresses' hand. One of these decisions is similar to what I said about 7500 a few months back, in which they made decisions to keep the camera fixed on one person throughout certain exchanges in the movie, even when other people in the room are talking to them. They keep it fixed. This is immensely intentional because it allows us to see everything about this character in this scenario in real time. It allows them to analyze and process the information as conversation is happening toward them. Events are happening around them. We get to see everything. There are so many other directorial decisions that I could point out here, maybe from a technical standpoint, but I'm focusing on the talent here because it's the acting in this movie that is front and center showcased. And that's one of the biggest duties of a director, is to get the most out of your cast, and Antonio Campos crushed it. He sets his high caliber cast up to do high caliber things. In addition to some awesome directing, he also crushed it in writing by turning out a fantastic screenplay. Now, as mentioned before, this movie is based upon a novel, one that I have zero familiarity with, but one that, based upon what I saw in the movie, I'd imagine is pretty in-depth, thick, and dense. I say this because this movie did a superb job of building up all of its characters, setting up all of these scenarios, showing us the emotional weight that all of them have without any hand-holding. I imagine the novel did a similar great job of this, but it's a lot easier for a novel to do this because they can be a lot more patient and methodical in giving us and building up this information. I mean, how often do you hear that the movie adaptation of a book is more detailed and better than the book? Never! Because compromises need to be made, and you need to take all of this material and somehow make it into a manageable runtime. I mean, yes, this is over a 2-hour movie, but it uses that time so efficiently. Not only does it strategically place its excitement and stimulation throughout the movie, but it also allows you to build up these characters and scenarios in a way that doesn't feel like you're just getting hit in the face with exposition. This film is split up into 2 time periods. You have the past and the present. Obviously, the meat of the plot, all the juicy stuff happens in the present, but you need the foundation, the bones of the past in order to really appreciate the present. While a lot of movies have this two-timeline structure, most of the time they just give you like a couple flashbacks here and there of the past, or maybe a narration exposition dump that gives you like a summary of what happened. But this movie just says, We'll just show you the past. It takes a solid hour to get to the present. I mean, honestly, it could be 2 complete films if you wanted it to be. It took that much time and care. And yeah, sure, it does have some narration in the film, but it uses it as a bridge, not as a crutch. Speaking of the narration, if I read the ending credits correctly, it seems that the narrator was the original author of the film, which I think is rad. In the dog-eat-dog world that I assume Hollywood is, it is nice to see a creative get rewarded and literally have his voice heard with his brainchild. It just warms my heart. I wouldn't call this film a slow burn, but it is methodical. There are a lot of pieces, a lot of characters, a lot of scenarios all happen at once. But it takes its time to show us everything that we need to see, so that way when we see what we ultimately see, we feel what we're supposed to feel. Pair that with a pretty damn captivating soundtrack, you got a noteworthy film. My cons for this movie were minuscule and a little nitpicky. Like, for starters, there were some handheld shots in the movie that I thought were a little sloppy and disorienting. Like, there was one that was a full 360 handheld pan of a whole area, and I just felt like it was way too quick. Like, the combination of the speed that they did the turn along with the handheld element just made it really disorienting. A lot of motion blur happening. I mean, the combination was just brutal. I mean, these shots are so few and far between in this otherwise brilliantly helmed movie, but they were glaring enough that they stood out to me like a sore thumb. And maybe a con that a person without OCD can agree with me on, or some of the subplots in this movie just didn't really land like the others did. I mean, most of them are great. It's quite a freaking impressive spiderweb that they draw of connections and subplots, and most of them are great, but some of them are just fine. Not bad, just fine. I mean, these subplots weren't fluff or padding, like they needed to be there in order for the movie to land in the overarching story, but they just didn't have the same oomph that the other ones did. Which in the grand scheme of things in a movie like this, I thought there would be a lot more subplots that didn't land, but just in the fact that it only had a few little minor leaks, I mean, respect. I'll take a couple hits of a few thinner subplots versus a full-on plot collapse that it could have been. It's impressive. I mean, that just sums up this movie. It's impressive. All in all, I enjoyed the hell out of this movie. I went in with high hopes and it delivered. It's a dark, grim, gritty tale told with some masterful storytelling and amazing acting. It is definitely one of my favorite films of the year, no doubt. I'm going to give The Devil All the Time an A-. But that's just me. What do you guys think? Let me know if you agree or disagree in the comments below. And make sure to subscribe to this channel, stay up to date with new reviews coming real soon. Stay safe and thanks for checking in.